On this TFS Pocket, we get comfy and listen to some tunes. This is TFS Pocket number 36. That's right, we've been doing this for over a year now, which is really awesome. If you're new to the podcast, we're a retro video game podcast that focuses on speedrunning. Speedrunning is a hobby where we try and beat video games as quickly as possible using whatever tricks, glitches, and strategies that we have available to us to just tear through the games. And these pocket episodes are shorter episodes that go between our main episodes. Our main episodes are generally an hour and a half to 2 hours long. They go deep into a specific game. We have guests on, we interview them. These pocket episodes allow us to cover shorter topics that wouldn't fill up that kind of content, and also just allow us to kind of branch off and do some fun things. If you missed last week's episode, Chad did an interview with Grand Pooh Bear and Andy about esports and its affiliation with speedrunning. Esports has been bringing on a bunch of speedrunners. It was one of our cooler pockets to date, so go and check that out. This week, I'm making things real easy on myself. That's right, I'm being a bit of a lazy boy here because, normally we dive into a game, we get into dates, we get into strategies for speedruns, but this time we're just going to talk about some music. I was recently part of a project for a Game Boy album. I am part of a Twitch team called Monochrome City. It's a bunch of Game Boy speedrunners and casual players, all people passionate about the Game Boy, and they organized this thing where they made an album called Sidetracked, where all 7 of us picked 5 songs from different Game Boy games that we wanted to be put in this album. And I'll post a link for you to download the full album in the info of the podcast here. If you're on iTunes or Stitcher or anything, you can go ahead and click on that. But essentially, there's the album to download and then a booklet that was made that was designed just like a Game Boy booklet. It looks really cool, honestly. I love it. And it has all of our different choices and then our little write-ups that we did for each game. So I'm going to go through those write-ups, but also make some comments as well before we listen to each of my 5 titles. Just as kind of a disclaimer, these aren't my 5 favorite Game Boy games. I don't want to get messages that are like, well, what about this? What about that? I had a list of games that were already chosen before I got into mine, so you should listen to the full album. There's a lot of great stuff, the classics from Super Mario Land and Final Fantasy Adventure. I think some Pokemon's in there. It's really good and an awesome listen, but these are the 5 I picked to contribute. And part of what I did is I didn't want to pick any music that was basically ported from another system. What I mean by that is a lot of Game Boy games were ported from the NES, for example, and so a lot of that music was reused or remade. For example, like the Double Dragon music is really good, and it does translate really well to the Game Boy, but it is still something that originally was made for something else, and I didn't want that. I wanted Game Boy specific stuff. So with that all set up front, I'm going to start with our first song, which comes from a game, Castlevania II Belmont's Revenge, and the song name is New Messiah. There's a bunch of Castlevania games on the Game Boy, actually, if you were not aware. There are 3 original Game Boy Castlevania games. There's Castlevania Adventure, Castlevania II Belmont's Revenge, Castlevania Legends, and if you want to count it, Kid Dracula could count as the 4th, since it's kind of a Castlevania spin-off, if you will. And they're all really solid games. If there's any complaint, it's that they move very slowly, and they kind of speed up as you go through them. So like Castlevania Adventure moves really, really slowly. Castlevania II Belmont's Revenge is still a fairly slowly paced game, even for a Castlevania game, but it's still much more playable than Castlevania Adventure. And then Castlevania Legends moves at a much brisker pace. They're all really solid games, to be honest. They translated really well over to the Game Boy, and if you've played any Konami games from the 90s and the 80s, they always made awesome games and also always had baller music. You think of Contra, you think of games like the Castlevania 1 on NES. Awesome soundtracks, and this is no exception. So I'm going to read my little write-up here. I'm going to try and make it sound as natural as I can. Sorry if it sounds like I'm reading, but I think the write-ups are fun. I said, it is basically impossible to go wrong with any song in any of the 3 Game Boy Castlevania titles. I tried to steer away from anything that appeared first in a game on another console. The driving, synthesized bass line underneath the catchy melody sets a perfect, intense, action-based tone while also remaining haunting. haunting. Now, only if Simon Belmont could walk at a pace worthy of this track. And I do really like how the song has driving bass. You're going to notice that as a standing theme. I am a bass player. I love playing bass. I love good bass lines. I love good driving, upbeat video game music for sure. And this is no exception, but it does also retain that haunting tone to it, which fits with kind of the horror theme of Castlevania. So let's go ahead and have a listen. Hopefully you enjoyed that great song. Our second song actually comes from a pretty much unexpected source, and that's the Smurfs. And this song title is Unknown Song 2. That's what I found online. I don't know exactly what level it comes from, but it's from the level where you are riding on this giant bird. It's basically an auto-scroller. There's clouds above you that are shooting down lightning. And, normally autoscrollers would be pretty boring, but with this music, not boring at all. You may recognize this game from episode 59. That was Cart Swap number 2. Me and Chad have this series where we have swapped games as quote-unquote gifts. You could consider them, more acts of terrorism against each other than gifts, but where we give each other a game to learn how to speedrun. And I gave him this game, The Smurfs for Game Boy. A really, really good licensed game, very solid. It's a good platformer. It's got solid controls. It's got surprisingly good music, and it's just an all-around good experience. And one thing that both Chad and I noticed when he was speedrunning the game and I was playing it for Game Boy Quest is that this game has a huge amount of love in Europe. I think a lot of people grew up with this Smurfs game and some other Smurfs games. I think the comics and the cartoon were more popular there than they were in the US. And so anytime I've played this game or he's played this game, I always see people in Europe getting in chat and getting real excited. And so my write-up says you probably didn't expect to see this game pop up on this list. This track is so hot you have to wear oven mitts just to pick it up. The strange, garbled rhythmic sound effects are reminiscent of Comerica's use of the NES sound chip for games such as Big Nose the Caveman. An unbelievably catchy melody runs over a driving bass line, creating an atmosphere of adventure one should expect as a small purple creature riding a giant bird through treacherous caves. And it really does have this awesome driving tone with also really pretty catchy melody behind it. It also has this sound effect that, like I said in the write-up, kind of this warbly effect that I love from Big Nose the Caveman. I don't know if it's necessarily good or if it's so bad it's good or what it is about this sound effect, but anytime I hear it in the game, it puts a smile on my face. I really love it. So let's go ahead and listen to this awesome tune. Continuing with the list, we have Ninja Gaiden Shadow, and we are using the theme from Stage 3. Just like the last song, this also is related to a previous TFS episode. If you go back and listen to TFS Pocket 30, I had Proto Magical Girl on, and we talked all things Ninja Gaiden Shadow. She's super passionate about this game and ran it at GDQ. I also ran this game at one point and really love it. And to be honest, it's one of the best overall soundtracks for the Game Boy. It's really solid. So it's kind of tough to even pick a favorite song from the game, but Stage 3 is my favorite for sure. And what I said is thus far I've picked all upbeat rock songs. NGS has one of the best overall soundtracks for the Game Boy, with Stage 3 being my hands down favorite. Fast-paced, with another driving bass line, this melody will stick in your head for hours. The multiple layers of this music, combined with its fast tempo, make you feel like a ninja on an important mission. And who doesn't want to feel like a ninja? I really like this song. I really love this game. It doesn't get enough love in the speedrun community or the casual community. Go check it out. I know it's not a Ninja Gaiden game. It's a Ninja Warriors game, but it's still really awesome, so let's have a listen. So up to this point, we have done 3 songs, all from 3 pretty solid games. A lot of fun to play as well as to listen to. This next game is not the case. This is Metal Masters, and I labeled it as the only song there needs to be, because this is the only song in the game. In fact, this is the only good part of this game. And also, there's no music in the game itself. When you are playing this game, there is no music. It's amazing. But this title screen music is unbelievable. It makes no sense. This is a robot fighter fighting game. You can level up your different body parts. It's basically unplayable. It makes no sense. You can get stun locked and just die. You only have 1 life. It's a completely garbage game, to be honest, and I'm currently trying to beat it for Game Boy Quest. But the song in it, oh my gosh, I don't understand. I don't understand how this song ended up in this game. I feel like maybe they had 2 weeks to produce this game, and they spent 12 days on this song, and then realized, oh no, we have to release a game in 2 days, and then they made the rest of the game. I don't know what the story is, but this song is awesome. I said, wow, this song is indescribably better than the trash game it was put into. It starts off with an explosion and some weird sound effects you would expect to hear in Radiohead's most recent album, one of my favorite bands of all time. It starts ominously light. You know something is coming when the heavy distorted bass kicks in. Then things get very 80s electronica. Somehow, you feel like Molly Ringwald and the T-2000 all in one song. I legitimately cannot believe this is a video game track. It is that good. And it really is probably the most song-like of any of these. A lot of these are obviously loops. Game Boy has limited capacity, and the way video game music is designed, looping music is generally what it is. This song kind of has a much longer sustainability before it reloops. It really is very 80s, and it's just really awesome. So let's go ahead and have a listen. for my last song, let's go ahead and return back to good games. And in fact, let's just return back to the best game on the Game Boy, and that's Link's Awakening. If you disagree with that, come fight me. It's the best game on the Game Boy. It's one of my 5 favorite games of all time. I love this game. I'm certain we will do a TFS episode of it at some point. It's a very complex speedrun with a lot of different tricks, and it's very broken. A lot of fun. It's gone over a lot of changes the last few years in terms of the speedrunning world. But this is a game I grew up with playing the Game Boy Color version, which is a really great, kind of re-release or upgrade where they added a dungeon and all these different colors and fetch quests. And what's really cool is this game, I feel like, integrates music better than, any other Game Boy game, but also just better than most video games in general. I mean, essentially what you do is each dungeon that you go through, all 8 dungeons, at the end of the dungeon, you get a musical instrument, and you hear that musical instrument play, and you're like, okay, cool. But when you go all the way up these stairs where there's this giant egg at the end of the game, and you have all 8 instruments, all 8 instruments play together. They coalesce to play this Ballad of the Windfish song, which you've heard in the game before, but you've never heard it really with all of the instruments combined. And this may not be the best song objectively in this list. It's not the greatest song in the world, but I picked it because it's just so powerful what it does. And I think I would rather just read what I wrote because I probably articulate it better there. Said, after 4 rock songs, I had to go with a ballad from the best game on the entire system. This song is more than just a song. It is integrated necessarily with the gameplay. After each dungeon, Link is rewarded with an instrument of the Windfish. Only after getting all 8 instruments, he can play the song in front of the giant egg and awaken the Windfish. Each instrument plays its own role in the song, a moment the game has been building for after hours and hours of gameplay. This is the greatest integration of music and gameplay on the entire system. The song may not be objectively as good as others, sorry, broken record here, but its significance cannot be ignored. As each instrument plays, it reminds you of the journey you have made in the game and brings nostalgia feels from my childhood and the journey of life. It is inextricably linked, no pun intended, to the eerie and unusually melancholic ending for a children's game. Spoilers, where the world you have existed in the entire game is wiped away as a dream due to Link playing this song and awakening the Windfish. As the song plays and you watch screen by screen of the beautiful world disappear, the song is automatically attached to so many emotions. Victory over the game, an accomplishment, sadness over the island going away, and regret. This song definitely holds way more weight and emotion to me than any other Game Boy game and any other Game Boy song should. It's a really great song. It's an amazing game. And, it's a strange ending to a game. I mean, like, Koholint Island never shows back up in the Zelda lore. This is technically all a dream. I think it's supposed to be between, I can't remember. I'm not even going to pretend like I know what the timeline is. But I adore this game. It's got a lot of personality. It's very unique in the Zelda, chronology, or the entire Zelda world in terms of their games. I feel like it's very unique. It's got this very cute personality, very memorable characters, and also just this song. It all comes together with this song. Every dungeon you beat, all of the gameplay you went through, it all comes together. You hear all of the different instruments. It's really impressive with the Game Boy sound chip that you can hear the triangle and the cello and this and that. They were able to get all 8 instruments to come into the song, and yeah, I don't know. Let's go ahead and have a listen. So those were my contributions to this Game Boy album. Again, I will post a link for it in our info. It's just, free to download. We don't own the rights to these songs or anything. It's just stuff that you can listen to. But we really enjoyed doing this project. We have a great love for the Game Boy in the Monochrome City team, so please check that out. Please give some of the people on Monochrome City a follow. If you haven't already, they're really great streamers and definitely deserve more recognition. The Game Boy community as a whole obviously is a huge viewership pool, so if you like the Game Boy, please go give them follows. But I really enjoyed doing this project. I hope you liked this podcast. I know it's a bit different than our normal stuff. We'll be back to our normal stuff. I'm sure I'll dive into some sort of Game Boy game in 2 weeks or 4 weeks or whatever. But hopefully you enjoyed this for now. I want to give a shout out to Chad, my podcast partner. He's the best. I couldn't do this without him. You can follow him on Twitch and Twitter and YouTube, all at Author Blues. You can follow me at John Carls on Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, and John Carls1 at YouTube. And also follow our producer at BMorgs TV on Twitch and Twitter. He's doing this podcast last second for us because I slacked. I forgot about it, to be honest. Let's be real honest here. And, he makes up for a lot of mistakes that we make, and it's really awesome. So please show him some love and give him a follow. Let him know that we appreciate him. If you're looking for ways to find our content, you can go to theframesavers.com. It has links to our Discord where you can hang out with us, ask questions. We've been streaming on twitch.tv/theframesavers every other Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern. And also that will have links to, Stitcher and iTunes and all the places you can get our content as well. I hope you really enjoyed this episode, and I'm really looking forward to just diving into more games coming up soon. Thanks for listening.